Hello all, welcome to Introduction to Philosophy. I am Instructor Cook, and I am also bald, in case I haven't always been that way, but it's a relatively new thing within the last couple of years. So if I take my hat off, don't be surprised when you see a bald head. Nevertheless, I'm Instructor Cook, and this is Introduction to Philosophy PHI-100. There are certain sections that some students are in, so I don't want to say which specific section just yet. Now, what we will be covering in philosophy is a lot of different things. The history of philosophy, common sort of themes, different ethical frameworks. But this first chapter, if you have read it in your textbook, Archetypes of Wisdom by Douglas J. Socio, he begins by saying that philosophy is already a part of our lives. And perhaps you just haven't realized it yet, but for example, I might have the philosophy, right? That it is wrong to torture animals. But I don't really have anything sort of developed as far as that goes. It's just sort of this idea. Part of what makes philosophy for Douglas J. Socio is that it is systematized. It is very well thought out. It answers potential objections, and it is a comprehensive system. So there are other sort of terms for philosophy that people use, right? This is my philosophy of playing checkers. But even though that might fit the definition of a particular type of philosophy in a sort of standard Webster's dictionary sense, Socio sort of says that might be considered having a philosophy, but it's not the same thing as doing philosophy. So when we think about philosophy historically, there have been a few different ways in which it has manifested. And before they were, talked about as philosophers, what scholars have sort of pinned down, according to Socio, there's some controversy about how this chapter is categorized, but we won't get into that now. But what scholars have sort of called these early philosophers or thinkers, even though they weren't technically called that at the time, are sages, wise men, or women, although because of the history of patriarchy, many were men. And Socio did not use this term, two spirits, but I have thrown it in there because it's often talked about within this first chapter, or at least mentioned, that there were sages or shamans from Native American cultures, and I don't want to leave out those two spirits, which would be more like an intersex person or someone who didn't fit the female gender binary, that are prominent in indigenous cultures. From what I understand, Two-Spirit is a name that was given in like 1990 or so, but it's been around for a long time. I even learned about it in my health and sexuality classes when I was an undergraduate. So, nevertheless, Socio writes, though, regarding philosophy, there is a difference between saying philosophical sounding things and actually philosophizing. Perhaps the chief difference between just talking about philosophical ideas and actually philosophizing about them involves the degree or rigor and discipline you apply to your reflections. So, essentially, if I have this idea that is like torturing animals is bad, if I haven't really worked out why it is bad or in any sort of systematic fashion, then it really just seems like an aphorism or some sort of vague idea. And how can I back that up? Speaking of aphorisms, it's on social media the other day after the US recently just attacked another country. I saw this aphorism posited as philosophy, where someone said something to the nature of, true peace is being prepared for war. And I don't know if some ancient sage said that or whatnot. It's possible that they did, but I asked them, what do you mean by that statement? And of course they ignored me. But this is an example of sort of like, I don't want to say fake philosophy, but I am going to say fake philosophy, where people have certain ideas, but they are not really deep. There's not any sort of comprehensive, systematically working them out. Now, there is a difference between sort of the Western idea of philosophy versus like an Eastern or versus like an African. And there is more of a rational discourse aspect to Western philosophy, but even, like, let's just grant that sort of distinction being as it is, even if that is the case, even in ancient Chinese thought or ancient African thought, like ethics, for example, there are very systematic and comprehensive ways of talking about ideas. It's not just some sort of aphorism where it's open-ended and people are left trying to figure out what it means. But it is true that, Eastern philosophy is generally more sort of self-help, therapeutic type feel, but they're especially in the way that an assertion is made. But there still is a systematic way when you look at all the text together of what's happened.